In these times, it's especially important to share discourses that are rooted in themes of deep presence, contemplative practices, divine connection, discipline, self-control, finely tuned awareness, simplicity, authentic expression, purification, compassion, empathy, and surrender. Surrender is sometimes thought of as a hippie concept. It's not realistic with all that we have on our plate. Living in the flow, going with the flow, surrendering to the flow. Yeah, I have bills with due dates and loved ones that need to eat. That's a nice idea, but look at the society we're living in. How can I actually surrender in the way that I would like to? Everyone's nervous system is dysregulated. There's a ton of pressure upon us. People are less in touch and in tune with each other than ever before. And emotional intimacy, clean living, and soulfulness are at an all-time low. This is why it's crucially important for this discourse to be applied. There comes a moment when the soul grows weary of its own resistance. It's a deeper exhaustion that's born of striving against the current of life itself. It kills people. The stress, the mechanical living. In these moments, surrender is a doorway, a return. And if we listen closely enough, beneath the noise of the world and the restlessness of the mind, we can begin to sense that surrender has been whispering all along. To live in a state of surrender, which can really become our primary state of being, not a singular act in a moment of stress or negative emotion. To live in a state of surrender is to enter into a sacred alignment with the unseen intelligence that breathes galaxies into existence and orchestrates the unfurling of a leaf at dawn, the things we see every day and take for granted, all the way to planets that have all the colorful, delicious provisions upon them. To live in a state of surrender is to enter into a sacred alignment with the unseen intelligence. That's not our conditioning. To trust that the same force that spins the stars also animates our heartbeat and guides our path and holds our becoming with an intimacy beyond comprehension. It's spoken about in every faith and culture. The ancient scriptures of the world, though they're clothed in different languages and symbols, converge upon this truth with remarkable harmony. Let's look at some of those. In the Hebrew Psalms, one finds a profound invitation. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness here, not meaning merely physical quietude, but the cessation of inner turbulence. The surrender of the compulsive need to control and predict and dominate life's unfolding. That's very challenging for us to do. Be still and know that I am God. It is in this stillness that knowing arises. It becomes visceral and eventually a deep embodied recognition. It has to go past the intellectual plane and be integrated. In the teachings attributed to Yeshua, the call to surrender was radical and it was tender. He said, "Not my will, but thy will be done." Capital T-H-Y. God's will be done. Not my will, but God's will be done. That's profound trust. That's a relinquishing of the ego's narrow vision in favor of a wisdom that sees beyond time and circumstance. Consider the everyday struggle of someone facing uncertainty in their livelihood. That's so many of us. Perhaps navigating job loss or financial instability or delicate health conditions. The instinct is often to tighten up, to grasp and spiral into fear. Yet surrender invites a different posture. To act with integrity, seek opportunities, but without the inner contraction that declares everything depends solely on me. Oh my gosh, everything depends solely on me. Instead, we are to move with effort that's infused by faith and allow outcomes to emerge through a collaboration between human intention and divine orchestration. We're supposed to be working together with the realms through our multidimensional nature. The Bhagavad Gita, one of the most luminous spiritual texts of India, speaks directly to the human tendency toward attachment and anxiety. Krishna counsels Arjuna, saying, "Surrender all actions to me, with your mind focused on the self with a capital S, free from longing and selfishness, fight without inner agitation." Surrender all actions to me with your mind focused on the self, free from longing and selfishness, fight without inner agitation. Here, we see that surrender doesn't negate action. It refines it. Here's how to go about the actions that you take. One continues to engage fully in life. We're still going to work and create and love and do our best, but we're releasing the binding attachment to results. And look how intensely we try to craft and schedule and fill our lives. Imagine it like a parent raising a child, pouring care, guidance, and love into that child's development, while surrender allows the parent to offer their best without attempting to control every outcome and mold the child into a specific type of adult based on their preferences. No, it's trusting the child's own soul journey. In Islamic tradition, the very word Islam carries the essence of surrender. It's submission to the will of Allah. The Quran reminds us, it says, whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. He, capital H, then God is sufficient for him. There's no passivity. The reliance on God is an active leaning into divine support, an inner anchoring that steadies the heart amid uncertainty. In times when the world feels chaotic and news cycles amplify fear, technological noise fragments our attention, this reliance becomes a sanctuary. It's a way of walking through turbulence without being consumed by it. The 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐿 offers its own poetic articulation, saying, "The master does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone." This paradox reveals the mystery of effortless action, or what it calls wu wei. Wu wei is a state in which one's actions arise from alignment rather than force. Think about every moment of our lives being lived from a state of alignment rather than force. Consider the difference between forcing a conversation to go a certain way and allowing a conversation to unfold with presence and openness. In the latter, there's a subtle intelligence at work, guiding the exchange toward authenticity. Even the Buddha, in his profound exploration of suffering, points toward surrender as a lived release of clinging. It's called the second noble truth, and that's something that identifies attachment as the root of suffering. The third noble truth reveals that liberation arises through letting go, and that's a popular concept. Lots of books written about that, lots of talks on letting go. This letting go is surrender in its purest form, and it is one of our greatest challenges in the midst of the hardest times, where our mind can't figure it out and our resources don't show a way. It's surrender in its purest form, letting go, relinquishing the illusion that permanence can be imposed upon an impermanent world. Across these traditions, surrender emerges as a way of being, a continual softening into what is. And it's coupled with a deep trust in what is unfolding, what is to come, what hasn't arrived yet. It's a way of being, a continual softening, and a deep trust in what is unfolding. Yet in our modern world, surrender is often misunderstood. It's mistaken for weakness, for passivity, for a lack of ambition or drive. Surrender requires immense courage to release the familiar grip of control and face uncertainty without armor and trust in something greater than the conditioned mind. As a species, we are profoundly conditioned. From an early age, we're taught to strive, to hustle, to pound the pavement, to compete, accumulate, define ourselves by external markers of success. Our nervous systems become attuned to urgency. Our minds become attuned to comparison all the time. Our hearts are attuned to a subtle, constant sense of lack in one area of life or another. Now add to this the relentless influx of information and streams of data and opinions and images and stimuli that bombard our senses and tons of incoherent electromagnetic frequencies. It becomes clear why so many people feel fragmented and disconnected. So surrender in this context becomes both a refuge and a revolution. It invites us to step out of the compulsive patterns that perpetuate suffering and return to a simpler, more organic way of living. It's not abandoning the world. We're engaging with the world, but doing so from a place of centeredness and clarity. How can we speak about this very practically? Well, surrender begins in the smallest of moments. For example, when a wave of anxiety arises, or sorrow, sadness, fear, anger, instead of resisting it or becoming entangled in its narrative, we can pause, breathe, and allow the sensation to be present without judgment. This is a form of surrender, an openness to experience that dissolves the secondary suffering created by resisting the experience. We're not judging what's arising. We're observing what we're feeling. We're not owning it as a permanent state of being. We're not amplifying it. We're not becoming entangled in it. It is in these small moments, over time, they accumulate, they reshape our relationship to thoughts and emotions. That's one way. And in relationships too, surrender manifests as the willingness to release the need to be right and to control or to defend. Imagine a disagreement between partners. The habitual response may involve escalation and commonly needing to assert your perspective and the tightening of identity. Surrender offers another path: to listen deeply, to soften, to recognize the shared humanity beneath differing viewpoints. There's no discernment or boundaries that are erased. It's just infusing compassion and wisdom into the interaction. And that has to be at the foundation of everything. A greater awareness, a willingness to soften and always recognize, okay, we disagree on something. We're still human beings at the core of it, and we share a humanity that's very precious and very sacred. Willingness to release the need to be right and control and defend. That's another way we can practically engage in surrender. Now, in matters of health, which almost everyone deals with in some capacity, surrender can coexist with proactive care. So we can seek medical guidance and nourish our body, engage in practices that support our well-being, yet also release the inner struggle against what is. The shift from resistance to acceptance often creates a more conducive environment for healing, as the body responds to the emotional and energetic states that accompany physical interventions. At a deeper level, surrender involves a reorientation of identity. Instead of identifying solely with the fluctuating contents of the mind, the thoughts and roles and narratives that come and go and change, we begin to recognize the underlying awareness in which these arise. And now it becomes very mystical. This awareness, described in various traditions as the self, the Atman, the Christ within, or pure consciousness, remains unchanged amidst the changing tides of experience. To rest in this awareness is to discover a dimension of our being that is always inherently at peace, regardless of external circumstances. Recognizing the underlying awareness in which the fluctuating contents and thoughts arise. These are practical ways to engage with life from a state of surrender. There's another thing, too, that we can do that only involves about 15 minutes. If you can do it morning and evening, find a time to sit with a notebook, a piece of paper to write on, or a blank document to type on. Go completely clear. Don't think anything, and call upon your guides in the non-physical realm, whether you want to call them spirit guides, angels, ancestors. We are made of a multitude of beings that came before us and are always with us, some more attentively than others with specific roles. And they're here to help us. This is another aspect of our multidimensional nature. This is the higher truth of our being. We are never alone, and there is divine guidance available to us when we are in the quietude and stillness and receptivity mode to hear what they say. Ask a question. No matter what you receive, write it down or type it out, whether it sounds strange or doesn't make any sense or seems unrealistic or silly. Do this every morning and evening if you can. Ask questions. Listen for the guidance. Your mind will not be part of it. You won't be generating thoughts. You will see that it's not your imagination either, and you will receive insight. Very practical, simple ways to surrender and for a quality of life to improve. The mystics speak of this with a kind of intimacy. They describe a union with the divine that transcends conceptual understanding, a merging in which the boundary between self and source dissolves. Yet even here, surrender remains central. Because such a union cannot be forced or manufactured, it unfolds through a continual letting go, a yielding of the separate self into the vastness of being. In these times of rapid change and uncertainty, the call to surrender becomes ever more relevant. Systems are shifting, old structures are giving way to new ones. The temptation to cling to everything intensifies. Yet it is precisely in this flux that surrender reveals its transformative power. By aligning with the flow of life rather than resisting it, we become more adaptable, more resilient, more attuned to the opportunities that emerge within change. And there's also a simplicity inherent in surrender that cuts through the complexity of modern life. It invites a return to what is essential: nourishing food, meaningful connection, time in nature, moments of stillness, acts of kindness. This is what anchors us in a rhythm that supports well-being and clarity. It's not grand gestures. It's a return to the basics, the essentials: nourishing food, meaningful connection, time in nature, moments of stillness, acts of kindness. This is what anchors us in a rhythm that supports well-being and clarity. In choosing simplicity, we create space for the deeper dimensions of life to be felt and recognized. There's nothing linear about the journey into surrender. Of course, there's going to be moments of contraction, of forgetting. We all go through it, of falling back into old patterns. Yet even in these moments, all of it can become part of the path. As we each return to surrender, it deepens our understanding and our capacity. And over time, what begins as a practice becomes a natural state. This is the gift in all of this. It becomes a natural state of being through practice, a way of moving through the world with grace, trust, and an open heart. I can't think of anything more demonstrative and powerful than that. So you might ask, well, how do I begin truly? And some practical ways have been presented in this discourse, but perhaps it starts with a simple willingness. Willingness is at the foundation of everything. Our will is involved. We have to say yes to the present moment first, exactly as it is, even if we hate it. Hi, present moment. Yes, yes, yes. I am not resisting this present moment. I don't have to like it. I don't have to judge it. I don't have to amplify it. I don't have to become entangled in it. I don't have to go deeper into its misery. I'm just recognizing it exactly as it is. I'm involving consciously my willingness to say yes to the present moment so I can move forward from it. And from there, we can cultivate practices that support this orientation. Things we've all heard of: meditation, prayer, contemplative reading, time in silence. We can reflect on the teachings of the great traditions and allow their wisdom to permeate our mind and heart. We might sit with the words of the psalmist, feeling into the invitation to be still. We might contemplate the surrender of Yeshua, sensing the depth of trust that was embodied in his words. We might reflect on Krishna's counsel to act without attachment, or the Buddha's guidance to release clinging. We might recite in our heart the remembrance of divine sufficiency spoken in the Quran. Each of these becomes a doorway, a reminder, and a thread that leads us back to the center. We're discovering a deeper self that's not bound by fear or driven by compulsion or fragmented by the noise of the world. This is about living from a place of connection, where our actions arise from clarity and alignment, and our relationships are infused with presence, and our challenges are met with resilience and trust. In such a life, grace becomes a constant companion. And doesn't that sound wonderful? Calmness is no longer dependent on external conditions. It arises from our inner alignment. Trust is rooted in a direct experience of the sustaining presence that underlies all things. And our very vibration, our way of being, begins to shift. It influences our own experience and also the whole field of those around us. This is the invitation of surrender, to step out of the endless struggle of control and into the profound intelligence of life itself, to release the burdens that were never ours to carry alone, to rediscover in the depths of our being a peace that surpasses understanding. And in doing so, to become in our own unique way a living expression of that peace in a world that so deeply longs for it. May this material be of service to your path. God bless, and remember to surrender.